Kosuke, Sorry, right? Joshny, right? Otsugani, right?
Onishmas. I don't know if he sobered or not, but last time he was in class, they did not come down. They didn't look so I don't know what he did to him, but I'll give him a break, unless they don't keep coming down. All right, today's last Wednesday of the month, and tomorrow our next class is last Monday, so today we're gonna do something a little different. So I thought we would do sword today. So what I want you guys to do is back there on that rack, grab a boken off of the rack, one per.
Do we have a preference on what size?
Any of the top ones, we'll save the big fat ones for later.
And is it just called sword in Japanese?
We do,
Oh,
whatever you get.
sorry,
No, you asking good questions, jumping right ahead. Okay, the wooden one is called a boken, B-O-K-E-N. I don't know who's writing over there, so. Like a lot of Japanese words, this is a compound word, bo-ken. Bo just means wood. Like when we talk about the kabuto, the staff, bo, it just means a piece of wood. Botanto would be a wooden knife, you know, that kind of thing. Ken means sword. It's one of the many iterations of the word sword. Ken is the more generic term for sword. Katana is a specific type of sword in Japanese. So bo katana doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It's not really a katana. It's a more generic form of it. If you just kind of stay out front and you look at it, it should have an arch to it in some fashion. This is the back of the blade. It's normally machined flat on the wooden ones. The bottom one is your cutting edge. On one end you have the handle, which is flat. On your guys's, the other end is pointy, as in the pointy end goes in the other guy. Any people know that reference? No, I'm the only one. Whatever. Hate you all. So, of course, we hold on to the handle, not the. Handle is the suka. It's Japanese for handle. On the katana, there's a big metal washer right here, the handguard. It's called a suba. To simulate that on the wooden ones, you should look down and you'll see the handle should have a distinct line where it stops being handle and starts being machined into the blade. So that's where the suba is going to be. It's on here. Just know how. So to grip the sword, you want to be as high up on the handle as you can get. The web of your hand is going to come down on top of the handle so that the long axis of the handle is in line with your forearm this way. Just like you set up the punching knuckles, you're going to set up that, that line is basically right up your forearm. Oh, it also goes in your right hand, just FYI. There are no left-handed swordsmen, as they say. That is a thing. There are some, well, let me back up. There were some left-handed sword schools in Japan back in the day. When I say back in the day, I mean back in the feudal era when this stuff mattered. They did not last long. They did not make it past history because they all got, for whatever reason, they just died out, literally. There are some sword schools now that are teaching left-handed. Okay. Every once in a while, John James being left-handed, I'll have him do knife left-handed because he thinks I can. It's kind of fun to watch. But in general, if you're left-handed and doing Japanese swords, sucks to be you. Okay. There's also the scabbard, the saya. I've never seen one set up for left-handed people because they are directional, the scabbards. The swords, you know, right hand, left hand doesn't really matter. The scabbard, right side, left side doesn't matter. When you're wearing the sword in your belt, like you see a samurai walking down the street, the back of the blade is towards the ground, cutting edge is up. One of the reasons for this is you get a more immediate cut on a draw. And setting this way, due to ancient metallurgy and woodworking and all of that, humidity, grit, grime, whatever that got into the sword or into the scabbard and onto the blade, whatever, being in this position would tend to drain towards the end of the scabbard, away from the bevel. So it would rust your sword. Back in the day, a good katana was a lifetime investment. It wasn't a replaceable object. So it's not something that you treated poorly. The only time that you would see them, one of the things too, as we'll get into as time progresses, is when we draw, we will manipulate this angle to do things, depending on what we're doing. The only time you would ever see it the other way is cavalry. If you're on a horse, you would wear it this way. Because one of the things that you can't do, because you've got control of the horse with one hand, is manipulate this angle. So they set it up from the most generic cavalry cut you can come with a horse. So, this way, horse, this way, walking around. Quick funny Hanshi story. When he was coming up through the ranks, he was still in Japan learning sword. Him and his instructor went to a sword clinic. He was fairly new to sword. This group of Japanese masters doing sword, whatever. Screwed up, put the sword in his belt upside down. And so one of the senior assistant instructors who was walking line, spot. Comes wandering over, looking. Hachi said he's standing there trying to figure out why he's about to die. He knows he's about to die, but he doesn't know why. So the guy trotters off the floor, comes back with a metal folding chair, opens it up, sits it right behind Hachi. She's like, I don't know what you're doing. The guy looked at me and goes, your horse. And so as soon as he said that, he knew what was going on. Turned it over. Oh, no horse? Ah. Once we get into more manipulating the size and other things, it is very important. Well, one of the reasons that the sides are directional is so that you know which way the curve is. If it were a straight sword, it wouldn't matter. Being curved, it matters which way it goes into the scabbard. So one of the things, or one of the reasons that they're set up as directional is A, they tie it into the belt, so it's specific how it ties in. It doesn't tie in correctly if it's on the other side. And the other way, so I know which way the curve is, because you can feel certain parts of the saya in your hand, so that when you're manipulating this, okay, I know which way my saya is. John Eric and I went to a sword tournament. It was the first one they ever had here in Orlando, and we were voluntold that we were going to go compete. So we went to compete. It was like a single elimination. Grab one off the top rack. Either the third one up or the one all the way up at the top. Either one. Slide down a little bit. Slide that, slide that, slide that. Because we didn't know their kata and it was specifically to that style, so we didn't last long in the competition part. But anyway, we're watching this guy, and he's doing his kata. He did a really good kata, but he turned his sai over, started his cut, and he let go of the sai without returning it. Eric and I both look at each other, we're like, well, let's figure it out. He gets all the way through his cut, and he goes to sheath it. And we figure, okay, now once he grabs it, you grab it before you sheath it, okay, now he'll know, he'll feel it. He didn't. He went. And luckily, he caught it as the blade bound rather than driving it all the way through. Because if he would have drove it all the way through, it would have shattered the side and basically split it this way. So that will become important soon. So, okay, back to the grid. On your guys, the concave part goes up, convex part goes down, pointy end away. Top of the handle, there should be a groove where the handle stops being handle and starts being blade. You're gonna come down on top of it so that the web of your hand is on that line. You're gonna wrap your fingers around the blade. You grip a sword like I teach how to make fists. You're gonna start with the pinky and you're gonna roll up. The pinky and ring fingers are really tight. The middle finger is medium tight. The thumb and forefinger are not tight at all. They're more or less there just for direction. So my actual strength comes from these two fingers, this one a little bit, and these two are here for guidance and manipulation. For us, and this just differs with style, the left hand, you're going to take the pinky and you're going to put it at the bottom of the handle.
The left hand.
Left hand. Then you're just going to grip it the exact same way. So pinky and ring finger are really tight, middle finger not so tight, thumb and forefinger are just. You are also trying to line up the web of your hand. The pinky finger is literally for us under the end of the handle. As we're standing here, our middle guard. The tip end is about nose level, maybe throat level, depending upon you. I like mine right about nose level. Everything else is dead center of my body, so you make this middle triangle right here. Alright, relax for a second. Let's talk about the feet real quick. In Iaido, there are only basically three stances. Front stance and Shiko, which you already know. But the primary and most common one that we'll find ourselves in is kind of a modification of our Jitsu stance. For those of you who were here a couple months ago, we were talking about that. It's going to start kind of like a cat stance. So you're going to make like one natural step. So more or less heel toe. And then you're going to kind of reverse it. So that my back heel is up. This is for pushing off. This way. So my feet are probably yoi distance apart, just underneath my armpits. Right foot is forward. My left back heel is up. My left heel is up. Shift your weight forward, lift your back heel.
And what stance is this called?
I just call this a tie stance. I'm sure it has a name, but that's the only one that I know of. Front leg, let the front leg relax, with the knees kind of bent in, and my weight kind of wants to go forward. So for us in the beginning, anytime my right leg is forward, I'm going to be in this stance. If I end up with my left leg forward, I'm going to be in the front stance. As a gentle,
Our traditional front.
our traditional front stance. Yep. Exactly. Okay. Now, there are two basic styles of swordsmanship that we do. And you can pretty much divide most of the old school sword schools in this same fashion. The main island of Japan, Honshu, kind of sort of looks like this. Tokyo's down here, Okinawa is way over here off on its own. Kyoto down here, this kind of thing. Back in the day, the capital wasn't Tokyo, it was right about here. And, I'm sorry, that's Kyoto. That's not what I'm talking about. This is the town where Kiyama lives, okay, whose name literally flew out of my brain. Kyoto was the old capital, and there's
kind of like in Florida, if you look at Florida from the top down, I-4 kind of splits Florida in half, and the geography is definitely different on both sides of I-4. It's kind of a geographic feature that kind of split this way. This part, back in the day, was called Koga, and Koga province, and this was Iga province. The two basic styles are Iga and Koga. The only thing that really separates them is how they look at their emphasis on power and speed. Iga is more about speed, Koga is more about power. And it's really, the only real difference is in its primary cut. If we're gonna do this primary head cut, Iga is gonna come from here because it's gonna be faster. Koga is gonna load all the way back here because I've got a longer travel, I get more power. Yeah, that's the only difference, is how they view that aspect of it. Okay. So if we go back to our grip, come on, middle guard, shoe on, come on. Take a right foot advanced into our sword stance. What we're gonna do is we're gonna start with an Iga style men cut, which men is head. So what I want you to do is we're going to kind of push pull with the hands this way, almost like I'm trying to crack myself in the head here. As it comes back, I'm going to push up and back to a 45. Your left thumb is going to end right about where your head transitions from forehead to skull, and it's literally going to touch. From here, as I go to cut, I'm going to have the sensation of casting a fishing rod. I'm going to go out and settle in. Go back, lift up, and cut. Eight. All the way. Eight. Up. G. Go. Rope. Siege.
I'm not getting where the goes.
Touch. 2. 2. Knock that glitch in the middle out. You're nearly perfect. So we'll come to that. All right, everybody relax. Just kind of put this on my side. Okay. Couple things to think about. Because we have two basic styles, there's only two positions you get to be in. There is here or here. No halfway. So those of you that are coming flat here, you're in neither one. So either lift it up. For now, I want it up and back at this 45 this way. As I lift up, I literally want that first knuckle of my thumb touching, of my left thumb, touching my forehead. Because the farther I pull out away from my head, all of a sudden I'm losing my back muscles, I'm losing the rear deltoids, and it's all front deltoid and tricep at that point. I want this locked in here. Also, I'm going to kind of over-exaggerate, but it's something you guys can play with. I want this hip load here, because I want the hip drive behind the sword. If I'm going to stay flat, kind of like doing a Sanshin, I can't roll the abdomen. For now, I want to think about this twist and drive. Okay. Very important part of every cut. Just like in our karate, we say everything twists. Same thing, well, similar thing in sword. As I'm making a cut, it doesn't matter what cut that is. And like we were talking about with Kubota with the bow, turning the hand over, I want the same thing here. As I'm cutting down, at the apex of my cut, my hands are gonna rotate in this way. Like I'm bringing this way, right? So as I'm cutting, I'm squeezing in this way. What we're trying to do is create pressure between that knuckle and that knuckle on both hands. We're coming in this way and in this way. Which is one of the reasons that the grip is asymmetric coming up, is so I have room to make that happen. Oh. The name of that particular motion is Shibori. S-H-I. Later we will talk about a concept called Chi Bori. Different. Shibori is the grip. Shibori is blood flinging. So I'm sure you guys have seen, various and sundry movies where they'll throw the blood off the sword. That's Shibori. That one. Okay? All right. So, what else? As I'm cutting, I want to tip end of the sword is the first thing that I want kind of moving away from my opponent. So I'm literally kind of push pulling here, driving up. Once I'm here and loaded for my cut, as I'm casting out, I come basically to my belly button, make my shibori, and stop the sword where I want the sword to stop. Oops. So, up, out and down. Oops. Cut. Come on. Bring the sword down more to the tip end, even with your nose. There we go. Hey. Brandon, it's good, but I want you to push the sword back so that your left hand is on your forehead, not your right hand. Eight. Good. On. Sheet. Go. Good, reset next week. Yeah. See? Okay, keep doing exactly what you're doing, but at the end of your cut, I want you to end the cut right where it is. Don't let it drop down quite so far.
Are we still supposed to be rotating our wrists?
Yes.
For this, okay.
And you do that when you strike?
At the apex of the cut.
This.
It is basically a way to stop the cut where you want the cut to stop. So if you want it stopped in Chudan Kamai, which is where I want it now, as I'm coming down, I'm going to twist it so it stops there. If I want a low cut, I'm going to twist it there. If I'm doing a side cut, I'm going to twist there.
And then when is your hip movement? When do you?
The hip movement drives the sword. So you're loaded.
So I'm up here.
You're loaded at this point, and as I unwind the hip, the sword's going to come with it. There. Yes.
Is there also a way to get your elbows?
Absolutely. Hey. Hey. Halt. G. couple of swords.
All
Oh,
the swords are about the same level, also?
that,
All the swords came out at the same level too? Yeah.
I'm just standing there and pose. You gotta cut it.
Sorry.
There you go. See? Height. You. Jew. Come on, relax. You're good.
Not bad.
Not at all. First day. This is pretty much everybody's first day doing this? yes?
Close.
You did some before, maybe a little bit?
A little bit.
A little bit
Not
back in the
like
day?
this. Keto had to swing it around a little
Right.
bit. On the, I have a question.
Mhm.
The hip, as we're drawing back, is that when we should be cocking our hip?
The hip is gonna lift it, and you twist clockwise, looking down, and then as it unwinds counterclockwise is when it's gonna drop for this particular cut.
What about your, like, there's no
That
way I
one,
can,
well.
it's like this, there's no.
Well, Goldilocks, so, right. I don't wanna do this, cause that's just gonna be, cause I can't connect my hip to my sword with my elbows this way. I also don't wanna be here, although there are styles and there is a particular cut where we do kinda collapse in. The styles that do this, my body ain't built for that. This particular cut I like because it's offset, so it makes being collapsed a little better. But kind of a happy medium, so for me, my elbows are 45, which gives me enough collapse in to connect, but not so much where I'm pinching the pectorals and binding up. So that you're gonna have to play with on where it is for you. But it's like, no, somewhere in the middle, depending upon your shoulder girdle, pectoral girdle, all that. Any other questions? Okay, good. All right, we're gonna move on then. We're gonna add a little something to this. So what I want you guys to do is take your sword, cutting edge up, point to the rear, left side, just grab it below the handle, maybe a fist distance, and just grab it with your left hand. Just grab it with your left hand.
The other left,
Pull it up.
oh, this one, thank you.
Cutting edge is up, point is back, handle is forward. Yes, there we go. Okay. This is simulating wearing it, right? Okay, a little farther down the blade, towards your back. I want more of the handle
On the blade?
in front of you,
Holding the blade?
holding blade.
Oh, hold,
Good.
hold the line?
Where your handle stops, about one fist down is where I want you to be holding here.
This,
Okay. Same thing, Brandon, farther down the blade. There
This
you
is our sword bolter.
go. Right. This is now simulating our saya, our scabbard. This is not us grabbing the bare metal sharp, razor sharp, straight razor.
okay.
Let's get that concept right now. Okay? For today, this is a wooden sword, and this is our scabbard.
This,
Okay? This is not simulating a 3-foot long straight razor, and I'm grabbing it by the sharp end. That's not what we're doing. Okay? Eventually, we will get to dulled swords with actual scabbards and playing with those, but for now, wooden sword, scabbard. When you're wearing the sword, you wear it on your left side. The handle is kind of out far enough, and depending upon how the sword is built, if you can, the end of the suka, the handle, is about belly button level-ish. It also depends on your sword. You guys, those both ends are a little short in the handle, so being off a little bit is probably gonna be better. The trick with this is as we draw, your scabbard is not a breakaway. You're going to push the sword out of the scabbard. So how we're gonna start this, is from here, you're gonna take your right hand and you're gonna lay it on top of the handle so that your knuckles are along the edge of the handle. And it's towards the midpoint of your handle, so that if you rolled your hand over, palm down, you should end up right on that line that we were talking about where you're gonna grip. Okay? Like we were talking about earlier, this angle is manipulated to match your first cut. So what we're gonna do is we're going to add in an upward draw cut to that main cut that we were just doing. So what we're going to do, we're gonna be in our sword stance, with the hand where you guys are. You are going to twist the sword so that the cutting edge, you're turning your left hand in. I'm gonna uppercut myself in the side of the head. So that the cutting edge kind of matches about a 45-degree down angle. And as I do that, my right hand's gonna roll over. I don't grip yet, I'm gonna leave it open. Pinching between the web and the thumb and the forefinger. I'm going to push the sword through my hand, my left hand, until it's clear. Once it's clear, I establish my grip, I cut up, so that I'm about nose level, from behind, and cut down.
All the way behind or
No.
still up?
45, we'll just stick with this. And cut down. Good. All right, for now, just put it back in your left hand. We'll get to resheathing here in a second. You guys are doing so well. Okay. Come to our command. Roll the sword over, grip, push, cut up, behind, cut down. Yeah, just return it to our left side.
Question.
No sword, no horse, no horse, no horse, no horse.
On a chair.
Turn the blade up, cutting edge is up. When it's in your belt, cutting edge is up. If you're wearing it cutting edge down, they were worn on chains because you're on a horseback. Okay. All right, from our command. Open hand for now, Lisa. You cut somebody, don't you? Man, I'm gonna axe this dude right in the face. All right. Kind of one, I'm gonna walk you through it, so kind of a one count, one move kind of thing. So, twist the left hand, roll the sword over, pinch the grip, more rolling over, more rolling over, more rolling over, more, right about there. Same thing, one more. Cutting edge should be kind of pointing down 45. Good. And push the sword out. Over here. Good. Yeah, there you go. From behind you, lift up, and cut down. Good. And just put it back in your left hand.
What point do we add our left hand to the grip?
Say that again.
Sorry, at what point do we add our left hand to the grip?
After I've made my cut up, once I'm coming around, as I start this circle, my left hand is coming up, so that by the time it's 45, I've established my left hand grip. All right, one more time, same way. Fix your stance, Brandon. Roll the sword over. Grip. Push. All the swords should be pointing towards the mirror at this point, yeah, just like Lisa was doing. A little more grammar. A little higher, Katie. And come behind, grip, and cut down. Good. And just put it back in your left hand. All right, let's try this all the way through. Hey. just point more towards me about throat level.
I love throat level, you said.
Point it more towards me. Point. There you go. Now, behind. And cut. Good. And put it back in your left hand. 8. Moose.
Yeah.
You forgot to twist, that's all. There. Cool. Good. Now, keep the pinky finger side up first. Up. Now point the sword toward me. Let your pinky finger go up. Go up. There we go. Now point the sword at me.
Sorry.
Point the sword at me.
3D
There we
motions.
go.
I'm struggling.
That's fine. It's not like it's the first day or anything. And I'm pretty sure you did not come out of your mama with a sword in your hand. Would be my guess.
I wish.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Let's put it back in your left hand. Alright, you guys are actually doing really well. Yes.
Okay, so, and at no time should any of my body parts rest anywhere on my body.
I'm gonna say that's an incorrect statement because I'm sure at some point there's something resting on something. It really depends on what you're referring to.
Okay, well, I just did my cut,
Uh-huh.
and I guess my elbows were
Uh-huh.
too far in, and I can feel them on my sides. So
The-
they should be out.
The fact that they are on your sides is not necessarily a problem. It's a problem if you don't like them there, or if you feel it taking power or binding something up. Because as I'm here, when I'm in my natural middle cut position, this elbow is actually touching my rib cage.
Okay,
Right.
that's,
Yeah. So the fact that you're touching is not necessarily a problem. It is if you are built to be this way and you're forcing your elbows in, something like that. It's a problem. Questions on that?
Can we do it again?
Absolutely. Actually, we're gonna do something, we're gonna do the same thing, we're gonna do it a little different. Let's do this. You two grab the red bag, kind of pull it out. You two grab the black bag, roll it over toward you. It doesn't matter, they're borrowed anyway.
ew,
Hey.
kudos.
Alright, here's what you guys are gonna do. You're gonna get on opposite sides of the bag from each other. And you're gonna take the kamai. I'm not gonna count this, but you're gonna walk through the same procedure. And by walk through, I mean exactly that. You're gonna walk through. So I'm gonna roll it over. Grip, you can push and touch. Because I literally want this to happen.
Loose.
And then I'm gonna finish so that I'm nose high, throat high with the tip end. Then I'm gonna turn it over, I'm gonna cut the top of the bag, and then just return it.
Loose.
Okay? On your own, like that slowly, walking it through and alternating. So one person goes, then the other person goes. I don't want you swinging swords at each other just quite yet. So, Hajime.
So I'm supposed
Reach
to-
out and touch, there we go. Good. Because this draw is a cut. It is called a soage. Soage kiri. Age, it's like ageuki, rising. So, kiri, in this context, cut. So, rising cut. Second cut, menkiri or menuchi. Okay, Brandon, yes, I want you to keep doing that, but as you're coming out and touching the bag, don't turn it into coming across. Let it come up. So I want it to be a rising cut, not a yoke cut. Teresa, exactly like that. Yes, Katie? No, that's fine.
Okay.
The only thing I want you to do is at the end, more of this shibori motion, so that it doesn't pop, 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 it goes pop.
Okay.
But yeah, hit it just like you hit it. Everything else was spot on.
Awesome.
Just more twist so that it doesn't go,
Right.
they just,
Okay. Who's-
okay, Brandon, same thing. Keep doing what you're doing, but more shibori at the end so that the blade doesn't bounce, it just drops.
Should be cocking my head for this.
A little bit, so you got some room to come out, okay? Now, Katie, start over, twist at the beginning.
Twist the blade itself.
Twist the blade to set the angle, there we go. Now, push just like you did, cut through, yes, just like that, good, keep going. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
More shibori, more twisting. Boom. Boom. And a cut. And if you don't turn the blade over, you beat it to death with the back of the blade, which is just as good, sometimes. If you're into anime, I think there is an anime character that has a reverse katana, so
Ah,
it's not always bad.
Do you go back to Yoi when you're done?
For now, I'll just
Staying.
say, yeah, because this is just drill.
Why do I wanna do them?
Because apparently in a past life, you were born in the northern part of Honshu.
Oops.
Is it? Can we ask each other questions?
Absolutely.
Don't ask me.
No, actually, I have a question about your stance. So when you're up here, sure, okay. When you are up here, your wrist on your left hand is doing this. So I was wondering if that was intentional, and if that's what we're supposed to do.
I heard the question, why are you looking at me? Answer her
You
question.
have kind of like this.
Alright, yeah, man, it's a good question.
That's cause I
We'll
can't do anything else.
We'll throw Reese under the bus a little bit,
Oh,
since
no.
we already pushed her under, we'll drive it over.
Okay.
Okay, ask your question, it's a good question.
Okay.
I totally didn't hear it.
I'm kind of quiet.
That
today,
same
sorry.
thing I had with my stance, my elbows are still out here, and I know why they are out here.
Okay,
And that's because of band,
okay.
because you hold your instrument like that,
Oh, okay, the framing,
the
yeah.
framing, and
Okay,
you are never gonna change that.
yeah. Well, we will do our best to
You can try.
meet a happy medium.
Yes.
And not, we will never change a lot of things, but we can achieve a happy medium.
Yeah.
So, but ask the question, because again, it just.
Oh,
completely
I was just asking, when you're in that position, if, like, I guess I was just asking the Goldilocks question, which was, I've seen this, and I thought maybe this, because it's more straight wrists
Right.
for safety purposes.
Define safety in the way you're describing it in your question.
I just know that most of the time when you're utilizing any kind of, arm
Good.
movement, if you have your wrists bent, you're likely to get,
clarify that.
From the movement?
Right. So, what's the answer? Well, Reese already gave you the answer, but anyway. Yes, just like everything else, we very rarely will want our wrist in a bent position, right? So if I'm here in my kamae, again, one of the reasons that my elbows are where they are is because it gives me a straight wrist on the bottom hand. The top hand, you'll see, has a slight curve to it. This is the modification because I've got something in my hand. I can't lift in this direction and still maintain a straight wrist. So there is some modification because I'm now holding a weapon. But as Risa was pointing out, I don't want to maintain this grip and flare my elbows so much that it does this, if I can avoid it, because I'm now disconnected too many things. So I want the shoulders relaxed like always, just like everything else. You guys may or may not have noticed, and describing these other arts, principles are basically the same. Relax, shoulders down, elbows down. Nothing ever really changes in that aspect of it. So when I'm up here, whatever allowance for the weapon is okay, but I don't want to, where I'm starting to engage the shoulder to make this bend. Cool? Okay. All right, get back. Put the bags back, please. And go ahead and put the boken back where you found it.
Yeah, are they placed in there by length?
They were just in a rack at random,
So it doesn't
so
matter. Okay.
that doesn't really matter.
Thank you. Okay, so here's my next question. So it's Ken, Bo Ken, and you said there are different types of sword names, and you mentioned the samurai. Where does that fall into? I guess,
Well, I'm not sure.
like Bo Ken is sword,
Well, Ken is the generic sword.
generic.
So, like, the Japanese would refer to a Western long sword as Ken. They would refer to a Chinese sword as
As a ken.
Ken. It's the generic term. The samurai sword is katana. That's a specific name of a specific sword. And they're basically just metal versions of the boken. Some of the other ones, there's nagamaki, which is a really big half sword, half spear. It's like a katana, a long katana blade on a short spear handle. So the blade and the handle are about the same length, but it's shaped like a katana. There is the say it's okatana. There's another word for it that's escaping me at the moment, which is the horse cutter. It's a katana on steroids. It's exactly the look of a katana, but it's proportioned up so that it's literally this tall. And it was made for cutting the legs out from underneath horses in general. One of the reasons that we're pushing here on this draw is so that we clear the saya before we start manipulating the blade, because the last thing you want to do is go through the saya. And two kind of interesting stories from Hanshi on that one. He was at a demonstration one time. His instructor took him. They were doing a demonstration, and other people were doing other demos. One of the demos was a very high-ranking swordsman who's going to do a demonstration with a live blade. His initial cut was going to be come running from the side of the stage, come running out, and do basically an overhead draw and do whatever it was he was going to do there. Hanshi says he's out in the audience watching because their part of the demo was coming up shortly. So the guy came running out, got to about center stage, went to draw, got too fast, went through the saya. He said it was a black background. All you saw was this white object flip through the air as the guy kept running. And he did exactly what you thought he did. He didn't push far enough. He still had about 4 inches of blade left in the saya. When he drew cut, went through the saya, through the thumb, and the thumb came completely off. And she said they went the following year to the same demonstration, same guy, had low. He was missing a thumb. So, very important, clearing that.
He didn't give up.
But,
He did not give up.
do not give up, that's right. Give him that credit. So there's, the standard length blade is usually longer than your hip rotation. So there's a little bit of, on the end to clear, which is why we wanna make sure that hip goes. Now, the horse cutter. Hanshi's instructor, never saw it, never seen a picture of it, so this is Hanshi's description of it. It's about this tall, about that big around. The horse cutting sword literally was about 8 to 10 inches taller than he was. And Hanshi would say every once in a while, his instructor just gets wild hair and he'd kind of do a cosplay thing, and because he was like, felt like doing it. Sometimes he'd dress up in his old Marine uniform and come out and do bayonet in class with them. He said one time, or several times, he came out with this horse cutter strapped to his back. And Hanshi describes this to me, and even he says he could never do it. He said this short little Japanese dude was able to completely draw this sword one-handed from his back and clear the side. Somehow manipulating the hip to clear something that was actually taller than he was. So,
Scooch over
Nice.
on the ground and push it up.
something, that's one of those, you can kind of defy the laws of physics things. Yeah. Okay. I was thinking about that as I was kind of prepping today, driving around, thinking about how I was gonna present today's class. I just thought, because we didn't talk about it with Kabuto, but it does kind of important. Yeah, I talk about how I like everything in kind of practical purpose to it, beyond the, philosophical, historical, the intellectual parts of it. I like things to have a very practical value as well. So what is the practical value of studying the Kabuto, the Iaido sword, the old weapons? We don't sword fight much anymore. If we do, it's been a really bad couple of weeks, right?
You can find a lot of similar items just laying around.
Yeah.
Right.
You really needed something.
What is a sword really? It's just a metal stick kind of thing.
A bow with a broom handle.
What was the broom handle? Yeah. Stick is a stick is a stick. No. How many y'all shoot? Couple of you? Okay. I found this over the years. I believe this. I might be the only one that believes this. Learning how to draw a sword applies to how to draw a pistol. It is the exact same process, but instead of coming across, well, depending upon how you draw. Not coming across, you're coming here. But the steps to drawing a sword and the method of drawing a sword is exactly the same as the method of drawing a pistol. And I can talk
Cleared the whole street.
the same thing. The grip is the same, the initial draw from the side is the same, the presentation is the same. It is exactly the same. Does it have any influence on our open hand stuff? Absolutely, we talked about it. The taijutsu is sword based, it came from the sword. It's like this, this shibori motion, one of my favorites. Open your hand. Hi, how you doing? Nice to meet you, right? He starts doing squirrely things.
Okay.
What is this?
This.
My cut.
Wow.
He reaches out and grabs. This is my shibori motion. I add in the second shibori motion, he has a really bad day. When I come down to do this part of the wrist lock, or this type of wrist lock, these nerve plexi. Again, part of the reason that it's asymmetric is so that I can manipulate this knuckle into those nerve plexi. So, in my opinion, how I look at my martial art, it's very interrelated. It all depends on how you wanna look at it. It's only those people that look at it, this is sort of this, they kind of get into, it's all separate. I don't like looking at it that way myself. Everything kind of builds on everything else. And we're talking about, Monday, when we were working some of that. Grab the back of that trap, and come up into these, you know, we were talking about that on the neck. Grabbing is one thing. Grabbing sword is something entirely different. You will get two very distinctly different reactions from it. This one, yeah, you know, a lot. This one will ruin their day. Trust me on that one until we get to play a bit more. You go home and tell Casey, guess what we did today?
Exactly what I'm gonna do.
Monday being last Monday of the month, we'll do more sword on Monday. Questions, comments, concerns? We all good? Call it.
Escape. Sorry, right. Kirsten, right. Otsugani, right.
I got too much stuff. What the next? Go home.